Okay, it seems we are alone. So, what did you think about the meeting with Caesar?
I thought it was pretty interesting. It was funny that he did warn us about the Cyclone DX thing, and that of course came to be. So that was an interesting reaction. I've never really experienced that level of reaction to it before. So apart from that, I thought the feedback was good and the reception was pretty good, and people were interested in the uptake. And well, if someone wants to contribute for Cyclone DX, they're of course free to do so, but I'm probably not going to spend my resources on digging into that.
Oh, okay, I see Yari is joining. Hello, Yari.
Hi, Ari.
Yes, we was just discussing last week. We were both, Jimmy and myself, we were both invited to a meeting by Alan Friedman. Alan Friedman is the Caesar S-bomb guy, and he has weekly meetings with people interested in S-bombs. So he invited us, and I made during the meeting a presentation of the work we have done on the OpenChain Telco S-bomb guide. So it was a good meeting. We had some questions, and the most important remark was that we have selected SPDX in our guide, and they asked why we didn't allow also Cyclone DX. Okay, now we have Aline from Sony. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. So I was just saying that last week Jimmy and myself we had been invited to a meeting by Alan Friedman. Alan Friedman is person in charge of S-bombs at Caesar. So they have weekly meetings with people interested in S-bombs, and we were invited to make a short presentation on the OpenChain Telco S-bomb guide. And as I just said, people were interested and asked questions, and the most important question that was asked was why in the telco guide we only selected SPDX, and why we didn't allow Cyclone DX also. So the answer we gave was that we wanted to have something detailed and precise enough in order to be able to build a tool to automatically validate it. And also, as Jimmy pointed out, SPDX is an ISO standard which Cyclone DX is not. So at that time we choose SPDX, and SPDX in version 2 was well, at that time the version 3 was not officially published, and still the tooling support for SPDX 3 is not at the same level as SPDX 2 for the moment. So we'll see in the future whether we make an evolution of the guide.
And before you joined, I said also that I thought it was sort of, I never really experienced that part of the tension between SPDX and Cyclone DX before, but that was quite visible in that meeting, that there was a big standards war between them. And as I said then, there was never been any sort of real market pull or push in telco for anything other than SPDX. So on my end, I feel that people are free to suggest contributions into the telco guide addressing the perceived gap to Cyclone DX. That it's not something I will be spending my time on, at least. Mostly because I don't know SPDX. So, or I don't know Cyclone DX, but I know SPDX. I'm probably not the right person to even contribute that, even if I had the time. But if someone wants to, they can of course do that.
And maybe a question before we start to go to the Cyclone versus SPDX discussion more deeply. Who were the people or the other people in the meeting, in the CISA meeting or the ESPOM meeting? From where are they? Like from industry, from the government? From where are they coming from?
Yes, all of the above.
Okay.
So the guy that got it was a lot of government people, but a lot of industry people as well. I think there was well above 100 participants in the meeting, so it was very well attended.
Okay, so it's a big meeting. It's not like us four here.
No, it's CISA is a big thing, and
yeah. But I think mainly from the United States or all over the world, except you guys.
Honestly, I don't know. We had, of course, the names of the participants, but
yeah.
I didn't. I was doing the presentation, so
Yeah.
I didn't have time to really check. I don't think I know the people who ask questions. Yes, Aline?
Do you know why the discussion started with SPDX versus Cyclone DX?
Yes, it's because I did a presentation of the telco as one guide, and well, in one of the slides, I described the fact that we have selected SPDX2 as a format, and yes, just after that, people asked. One person said that this was in contradiction with the CISA position that allows free standards for S-bombs, SPDX, Cyclone DX, and SWID. So yes, they immediately asked why we selected, why we allowed only one.
But from what I know, there are conversion tools, so it doesn't matter which format you pick. You can have your SBOM in the other format if you wish.
Yes, that's true. I had I had tested some of the conversion tools, not very recently, but some time ago, and the result was not always very good. In some cases, you even had a conversion that produced invalid code. Yes, Jimmy.
Yes,
You raised
so
your hand?
yes. So also to expand a little bit on that, it was really interesting because Alan warned us before the meeting that there's definitely going to be people with opinions on SPDX versus Cyclone DX. So that was anticipated. But I think it felt almost religious to me, at least in that some people really prefer Cyclone DX in a VHS versus Betamax setting almost. So I think they just they were kind of upset that their favorite format was not the chosen one, or that we didn't have support for both of them. But exactly why it would be that important, as you say, there are conversion tools, and if people feel that it's important, then of course they're free to contribute a Cyclone DX guide as well, which is the same thing.
Maybe just my personal take is that whatever the SPD or whatever the SBOM document format is, shouldn't make any, difference, because in the end, at least, I see that the organizations, they will have their own database where they might have some additional metadata for the components, and then from that database, they need to be able to produce either SPDX 2.3 or Cyclone, whatever 1.5, 1.6, whatever version it is, to the downstream customers. I think that's how it needs to be in the end. So I think it's quite fruitless discussion about is it like SPDX or Cyclone, because anyway, in the end, everybody needs to be able to consume and produce both formats, as long as there's no third that will kind of overcome both SPDX and Cyclone. But that's my personal view only.
Yeah.
My view is a little bit my view is a little bit that like I like the guide because it's easy for me to reference in contracts with customers and suppliers. And so far, I mean, I haven't received pushback on it being SPDX and someone preferring Cyclone DX. I mean, the moment someone gives me pushback on that and say, I'm only going to give it to you in Cyclone DX, well, at that point, it becomes a point of negotiation, right? But at
Indeed.
least as long as we agree on the format, then this has been very useful to describe exactly how it's going to be done and what data fields I require and what my expected values are. So it's been super helpful in that way. But let's be frank, if one of my customers really wanted Cyclone DX, of course we'd be forced to supply in Cyclone DX. But that feels like an unnecessary waste of resources in terms of negotiating that point if everyone is happy with SPDX.
Yep. Yeah, correct. And as long, let's say Ericsson or Nokia or whoever says to their suppliers that, hey, by the way, we would like to have our SBOMs in format X, I'm fairly sure that the suppliers from upstream, they are happy to provide the SBOM in format X rather than format Y. But then when it comes to big clients of Ericsson or Nokia or Huawei, whoever that is, then if I don't know, Verizon says that, hey, Mr. Ericsson, I would like to have SBOMs in Cyclone. I think I think I know what the answer is.
Unfortunately, I think I know what the answer is as well. But on the other hand, it's sort of so far we haven't gotten to that point.
Yeah.
I think there is a benefit also in having the common frame so that everyone is delivering the same, everyone is asking for the same.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it's not an SBOM is not a competitive advantage. It's just something we need to have.
Indeed. And well, that's one of the reasons why, in this telco group, this SBOM guide was, selected, because it's not giving any competitive advantage to anybody. It's kind of necessary thing to like everybody has to provide that. If I remember correct, the initial discussions we had, like what should we do?
Yeah, that tracks with my memory too.
Yeah.
And how we viewed it at the time. I don't think we anticipated things like CRA then, but it's really useful in like a CRA context as well.
Yep.
Yes, and in the Open Source Summit Europe in August, I have submitted a talk to present the telco guide. So I don't know if it will be accepted, but if it is, perhaps we will have a discussion also there. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was the validator. So I will share my screen. So it's not yet published in PyPy, but we have been working on an improved version of the validator, so we expect to publish it quite soon. So in fact, there are two major modifications, improvements in the validator. The first one is for the guide. Now, by default, the validation is done against the latest version of the guide, version 1.1. Do you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. But if you have an option to select the version if you want, that's one minor modification. The most important thing is that you now have a recursive option. This means that if you have an SBOM that is composed of several SPDX files which are linked via SPDX relationships, you just have to give the main file and it will recursively check all the linked SPDX files. So I can show you. So here I have one. It's a real case. It's a real case example. One case where you have many S bombs is generated by Yocto. So here you have the main file image full Tor, which contains several more than 100 linked files. So well, this one is very big, so it's a bit slow. I will stop it, but if you check. You see that here it's I've taken the tag value format because it's easier. You see that you have the external document ref that tells that there are linked SPDX files, and you have a checksum of the other file. So we have several strategies. By default, the strategy to find the linked file is to use this checksum. So it's what we have called reference logic, which is to find the files by the checksum. This might be, in some cases, a bit fragile in the sense that if you have to do some fixes in one of the files, the checksum will change, and so this will fail. So we have also implemented a logic that is called Yocto all. So in that case, you don't use a checksum to find the link files, but you use the file names with syntax used by Yocto. So here you take, in fact, the name of the file, which is a bit more reliable in some cases. So here I have a mock example with only 3 files. So you have the main file here, and you see it validates the linked files and tells you that all files are compliant with the guide. So as I said, we are still testing it, but we expect to publish it very soon.
And what do you think? Will there be validator version 1.0 soon?
Yes, Gergely, who is implementing that with me, is what didn't want to to start with version 1. He preferred to start with a version 0.1, then 0.2, and now 0.3 something. It should be working correctly, but I know the guys from SIFT, the guys from SIFT, from Anchor, who produce a tool to generate S-bombs. They had a very long time a version 0 dot something before they moved to 1.0. So yeah, I don't really know the answer. Yes, something I forgot to mention. Yes, the other improvement from a previous version is that we now have a strict version. As you know, in the guide we have some things that are mandatory and things that are recommended. So in the previous version, it only checked the mandatory things and told it was compliant if the mandatory things are correctly implemented. Now, if you put --strict, it will check if the recommended fields are correct also. So you can have a bit more strict verification.
A question about that. Let's say all mandatory fields are there, but then some of the recommended are, missing.
Mm-hmm.
The output, is it like failing, or does it just say that then some of the recommended fields are not present, or something like that?
Yeah, I'm lucky in this case. It is strict. I have to honestly, I don't remember the exact message, but
Yeah.
I can check.
Because I guess it could make a difference that okay, well we
Yeah.
have the recommended are there, but some, I don't know, improvements could be still done.
Yes, and one more thing which is not at all implemented, but which I had thought about. We asked for some mandatory fields, but these fields might be present, but with a value of no assertion. So, for instance, you could provide the license or the download location with a value of no assertion. So this is correct, but it's not optimal. So I had also thought of an option in order to list the file to the fields that are present but have no assertion or none value. But
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's not implemented, but yeah. So
yeah, because when I was playing with the SPDX validator, and almost every value could be no assertion, and still it's valid SPDX document, and it's value of that document is not that high, but it's still valid SPDX document. So that's a bit odd in that sense. But it would be good to pinpoint that, hey, by the way, this whatever license info is no assertion, so that you need to check it out, even though the document is valid document.
Okay, so that were both topics I wanted to share. So do you have other things you want to discuss?
Well, I have one item that maybe we can iterate over email rather than dumping it on everyone. but that is there an appetite for us to take this guide into some sort of formal standardization? If that would be useful in the context of, for example, CRA. One alternative, for example, could be to go via Etsy and formally standardize the guide there to get it as a European standard, which could be useful, especially since if one looks at the CRA, it just says that you need to provide an SBOM in a standardized format. And as we all know, and one of the reasons we created this guide is that leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And a real risk is then that that's going to be something they look to address in the future, and then it would be beneficial if we already had a European standard to point to say that this is this will serve those purposes well. I'd just like to raise the question here for the group if that is something we're interested in looking further at, or other standardization options would of course be on the table as well. I mean, either to say that we'll look to add it as a profile in SPDX future versions, or some other. It could be a combination of things as well, but I'd like to bring it up at least for as food for thought for people.
Yeah, SPDX profile could be interesting thing. I haven't thought about that, but yeah.
Yes, well, it was already suggested. I had a talk with Gary O'Neill from SPX about it. So yes, it's something that has already been suggested, but well, not officially for the moment. I know they are now SPX 3.0 is out. They have started to work on 3.1 by adding more profiles, but we didn't officially start discussions. Okay, yeah, that's perhaps we can start a discussion on this by email in the telco mailing list.
Sounds good. That probably enables a broader participation than those on this call only.
Yeah.
But it feels like the next logical choice. I understand from the OpenChain board that there's at the moment not a great appetite to take this through ISO, and ISO might anyhow not be the venue where we would want to standardize this. So for me, that's not a big hurdle. We'll see what happens with the work that Alan's colleague Borasan is doing in the SBOM study group. If that will become a guide, or if there's an appetite to bring that into formal standardization, I guess that remains to be seen. But it doesn't have to have a huge impact on us. I guess we can pursue this as we see fit. But I'm mostly interested in it from the context of CRA and having a more formal recognition.
So, Jimmy, do you want to start the discussion in the mailing list, or should I?
I can certainly do that. I'll send out. I'll compose an email throughout the day in my breaks, and I'll send it out later today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, because like with the CRA, there's anyway the standards coming out at some point, and I don't know, could then this guide to be linked to those somehow? because I'm not quite sure how all the EU legislation or whatever work goes. I should, do the Linux Foundation training about that.
That's the CRA training that Elle put out is actually pretty good. It's very comprehensive.
Okay, so if nothing else, we can close the meeting. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur, for hosting us.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello. Hello again, Aline.
Hello.
Yes, well, it's the same meeting as this morning, but for the US time zone. So, do you have something else to discuss from this, apart from this morning, or?
No, this morning I had to leave roughly at the half of the meeting, so
Okay.
it would be interesting to see what happens.
Okay. Yes, so I already sent some minutes of what we discussed this morning. So the first part was mostly to discuss the meeting we had at CISA on the invitation from Alan Friedman. And then we discussed the new release of the validator that we will, it is not yet published, but that will be published in a few days. So I can share my screen if you missed that.
Yeah, I missed that. Should we wait a few minutes? Maybe more will join.
Yes, well, usually most people, in fact, join in the first session in the morning. But yes, we can wait 2 minutes.
If nobody joins, then I can just read the meeting notes for what I missed, and it's fine. There is no reason to repeat.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's wait 2 more minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It seems you are the only one. So yes, in the second part of the meeting, I presented the next release of the validator that we will publish in a few days. I'm still testing before release. So in fact, there are 3 improvements with respect to previous version. So the first one is that since we now have a version 1.1 of the guide, you can now select the version to validate. So by default, it will be validation against the latest version 1.1, but you can, if you want, validate still against 1.0. Another modification is that by default the previous validator checked the presence and the correctness of the mandatory fields. Now you have an option --strict. In that case, it will also verify the presence and the content of the recommended fields. But the most important modification is the possibility to recursively validate a set of SBOMs. If you generate, for example, an SPDX SBOM with Yocto, you will get a big number of SPDX files that are linked together with the relationship in SPDX. So if you look at an example from Yocto, you can see that you have many external document references. So you you have the main SBOM, which is called image full, and then it references many other SBOMs that you have here with a contains relationship. So here I launched the recursive validation, and you see it starts to validate all the linked SBOMs. So how that works? As you see, in SPDX, the linked SBOMs are identified with a SHA-1 with a hash. So by default, if you use the simple recursive option, it will check the checksum and identify the files like that. What we noticed is that this is a mechanism that is a bit fragile, in the sense that if you change, if you update slightly one of the linked SBOMs, it will change the hash, so it won't work. So we have implemented another way to find the references based on the file naming, and so it's here what we did. We say that the logic is to use the Yocto file naming, so it will use the name of the reference instead of the hash. So it's a bit Yocto specific, but it's less error prone. So these are the main modifications that we have implemented, and as I said, I'm still testing it, and we'll release it probably next week.
Thank
you. Then at the end of the meeting, yes, and what I propose also, this is not yet implemented, but It is valid in SPDX and in the guide to put no assertion as a value for fields. For example, for the licenses, if you don't know or you don't want to tell, you can put no assertion, which is valid, but gives no real useful information. So perhaps in the future we'll add yet another option to be able to list the fields that have the value no assertion. But that's not yet implemented. And the last thing we discussed, Jimmy from Ericsson told us that it might be a good idea to try to have the guide formally standardized, for example, to propose it to Etsy. Or another possibility for having a better audience would be to propose an SPDX-free profile. So nothing is, of course, decided for the moment, but Jimmy told us he will start a discussion in the mailing list.
I see. Thank you. I will follow the mailing list.
Okay, you're welcome. So that was what you missed this morning. So if we don't have other questions, we can close, but feel free to ask if you have.
No, it's fine, especially since I'm the only one that joined the meeting. Thank you for the updates, for the missing bits that I didn't catch this morning, and then I can wish you a nice evening.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.